Hello and welcome to LSTV1. You're watching the news in English coming to you live from our studio in Lamenkera 1. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Amie Fadera and these are the headlines from the Standard newspaper. President's ex-driver says incompetence reason for NPP's poor results. Samsa accuses UDP of assaulting him over alleged foreigner voting. UDP hails positive election results. Gambia participates reports intimidation of voters. On the international front, Germany's Rheinmetall planning to send 50 tanks to Ukraine. Zelensky asked if he'll give Russia any part of Ukraine. These and more other stories coming ahead your way. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now the news in details. We begin today's news with President's ex-driver says incompetence reasons for NPP's poor results. Mansa Sumari, the former chief driver of President Adama Barrow, said the underperformance of the National People's Party in the weekend's National Assembly elections is because of the selection of wrong candidates. He rated most of the NPP candidates as below par or incompetent. Mr. Samare told the Standard yesterday that the dismissal performance of the ruling party has sent a bad signal to a timely wake-up call for President Barrow and his future political endeavors. He said the president should stocktake and reflect on what happened. Mr. Sumare analyzed, and I quote, "The president should by now recognize the genuine people who were with him from the beginning of the struggles. All these ministers and advisers surrounding President Barrow are deceiving and misleading him by misinforming him that the whole country is behind him, which is not true. For this election, they should have gone on the ground and listened to the people to know which candidates are electable. NPP did not win even a single seat in Banjul and Kanifing municipality. For the West Coast region, NPP got only one seat. This is very bad. This is a very bad signal for him. Let me tell you, if you want to become somebody in this country, it is West Coast region that will make you because it is the powerhouse. After West Coast it is Kanifing. If these two regions doesn't decide anything, it will not happen. This is the first time in the history of the Gambia a sitting president does not have even a single seat in Banjul. Nobody should be blamed but his advisers and ministers. They don't have support base, and in fact nobody listens to them. They cannot even bring any number of people to the party. From the cabinet level to the advisers, he should sack all of them with immediate effect because they have not done any campaign for him. They are his problem. Mr. Sumare, a former close aide and driver to the president, is on trial for official corruption after he was charged with fraudulent procuring diplomatic passport for people in exchange for money. FAO, NANA, and partners validates rapid food consumption survey. The Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, FAO, and partners on Thursday, 7th April 2022, validated the 2021 Rapid Food Consumption Survey report at the Sadauda Karabakh Conference Center in Kelsering. Bajan Kamara has the rest of that story.
FAO and partners supported the conduct of the survey from 21st September to 21st October 2021 through the European Union. FAO co-funded project titled Improving Food Security and Nutrition in the Gambia. The intervention is key in accessing potential nutritional impact of food fortification program. FAO partners took the opportunity to discuss the survey background and objectives and methods used. It was a national survey that covered all the 8 local government areas. The survey, which was the first of its kind, was led by the National Nutrition Agency NANA and supported by FAO and the Gambia Bureau of Statistics GBOS, Directorate of Health Promotion and Education, National Agriculture Research Institute NARI, Food Safety and Quality Authority, the Medical Research Council MRC, and United Purpose UP. Speaking at the validation workshop, Amadba, Executive Director of NANA, said the Gambia is experiencing double burden of malnutrition, where undernutrition include malnutrition and malnutrition, where undernutrition, including micronutrients, malnutrition and overnutrition coexist, while undernutrition is improving. Moshi Budi Rampedi, FAO representative in the Gambia, said that they are hoping that the results of the survey will inform the relevant stakeholders on what actions needed to be taken to further enhance access and uptake of the intervention, bearing in mind ultimate objectives of providing sustainable solutions to undernutrition and micronutrient deficiency of the Gambian population. For LSTV 1 News, I am Bajan Kamara.
Samsa accuses UDP of assaulting him over alleged foreigner voting. Fierce Barrow loyalist Manjako Samsa has accused Suleiman Saho, who was contesting the Central Badibu seat for the UDP, of being at the head of a mob that physically assaulted him over claims he facilitated foreigners to vote in the weekend's elections. Samsa, who was a nominated National Assembly member in the last parliament, told Star TV that about 10 UDP supporters from Badibu Salikeni descended on him in Kerpate after he went to the army commander to report the extreme behavior of the UDP supporters who were stopping people they considered foreigners from voting. Samsa explained that he went to Central Badibu following receipt of information that the UDP supporters were barring Gambian women from Palen Fula who are married in Senegal to come and partake in the voting. And I quote, "These are Gambians who only went to get married in Senegal. When I had this information, I drove there, and upon arriving, I found out that most of the youths on the ground are my own nephews. I warned them that they are embarking on a serious endeavor because they have no power to stop any registered person from taking part in elections. I told them that even the IEC doesn't have that power, and they listened and left the scene. When they left, I drove to the army camp in Kerpate to lodge a complaint so that the army can send troops to stop their extreme behavior. But while speaking to the army commander, I saw Buba Saho, the brother of Suleiman Saho, coming with his car with some youth sitting behind. One of them was a journalist, and when I was talking to the army commander, he was recording me without my consent. I cautioned him and seized his mobile phone and gave it to the army commander. A few moments later, I saw Suleiman Saho arrive, and he instantly jumped from his car and scolded me on my chest with two hands. About 10 others jumped from the car, and some of them started hitting me with a shoe around my eyes, and the other ran behind and attempted to smack my head with a heavy stone, but the army commander intervened and blocked their attempts, Samsa explained. Samsa, who was a member of the parliament in the First and Second Republics, said he could have suffered injuries on his eyes and said even the army commander was wounded in the assault. According to Samsa, he reported the matter to the Njaba Kunda police, who promised to investigate. I have the right to go to any constituency. Hussein Dabo is from Bansang, but his party box was placed in Badibu and he won. So what is the problem with me visiting anywhere I want? I am a Gambian. When contacted, Suleiman Saho explained, and I quote, "This allegation is not true. It is an exaggeration. This man, Manjako, has been attempting to damage me in any way he can before and during the elections. On the day of the election, he was out in my constituency dissuading people from voting for me. So his attempt to bring foreigners to vote in Lower Badibu has failed, and that is why he wanted to bring them through Central Badibu. I was alerted by a brother, and arriving there, I found him in the midst of some soldiers, and that was the time I attempted to move him out to a different spot so that we can sort out the problem. Saho also alleged that Samsa stole a mobile phone from one of his team members during the fracas, adding that it was found with his driver, who claimed it was given to him by Samsa. Gambians elect their National Assembly representatives. Gambians on Saturday, the 9th of April 2022, went back to the polls to vote for their candidates to represent them in Parliament in their various constituencies. The results were announced by the IEC chairman Ali Mamanjai. Bajan Kamara tells us more.
Gambians went back to the polls to vote for their National Assembly representatives on Saturday, 9 April 2022, and the results are as follows. NPP secured 19 seats, UDP 15, APRC 2, NRP 4, PDOIS 2, Independent 11. 33 new members were elected and 20 were re-elected. The names of the new National Assembly members are Bakari Kora NPP, Sekuba NPP, Sankung Damfa NPP, Esa Conte NPP, Aruna Bari NPP, Aliou Balde NPP, Jibimbalo NPP, Tamsir Cham NPP, Dauda Jeng NPP, Ibrahima Jaite NPP, Mfale M. Kora NPP, Mfamara Sabali NPP, Keba Jalo NPP, Salifu Jawo NPP, Abdoulaye Cisse NPP, Omar Dabo NPP, Bilay G. Tunkara NPP, Mod Lamin Ba UDP, Lamin Cisse UDP, Abdou Sow UDP, Yaya Sanyang UDP, Kemo Gassama UDP, Fat Cham UDP, Musa Baji UDP, Asan Toure UDP, Alaji S. Dabo UDP, Lamin J. Sane UDP, Suleiman Saho UDP, Yaya Gassama UDP, Keba K. Baro UDP, Alfusaini Cisse UDP, Madi Cisse UDP, Abdoulaye Ndiaye Independent, Mohamed Kante Independent, Bakari K. Baje Independent, Padembo Sane Independent, Ami Koli Independent, Keba T. Sane Independent, Almami Jiba Independent, Omar Jamme Independent, Yunusa Enba Independent, Omar Job Independent, Alaji B. Cisse Independent, Fatmata Ndiaye Independent, Seni Jawara NRP, Samba Jalo NRP, Amadou Kamara NRP, Alajimbo NRP, Suleiman Jamme APRC, Sirif SR APRC, Musa Cham PDOIS, Suwaibu Toure PDOIS. The Gambia Democratic Congress, Citizen Alliance, the Gambia Moral Congress, National Unity Party, and the Gambia for All were unable to secure a seat in the parliament. For LSTV1 News, I am Bajan Kamara.
UDP hails positive election results. Despite losing 7 seats in Saturday's parliamentary elections, the main opposition UDP has praised the outcome of the votes as a positive result. The party held 22 seats in the 5th legislature, which has now been reduced to 15. Party spokesperson Almami Tal told the Standard yesterday that the results are encouraging, and they sent a clear message from the electorate that the country need a course correction. The message is that the different stakeholders should take the political parties or independents need to come together and work out a program that is going to empower Gambians. The message is also that it is one Gambia we have, and that the challenges are ours, all of us citizens. Therefore, it is important to find a common ground. It is also important that the legislative agenda is put before Gambians that will include women empowerment and ensure to return a constitutional and other projects that will include electoral and other laws reforms. Mr. Tal, a former High Court judge, said the result demand political parties and independents stand as one for the betterment of the country. The last message from this election is that we must work together clearly, and the opposition and independent candidates have a dominant number in the National Assembly, it is extremely important for all of us to learn the message the electorate is trying to impart and focus on a more inclusive kind of politics, he said. According to him, the Gambia must be saved before we can hold each other accountable and keep our leaders honest. He said while the party is disappointed that it didn't retain some of its seats, it took solace in the new grounds that it's conquered. Before we had nothing in Banjul, but now we got at least one. In some key areas, we are disappointed that some of our candidates did not do quite well, Tal said. Meanwhile, Tal argued that the Gambia's election process remains topsy-turvy. The election process itself is in serious need of reforms. Diaspora voting has not been enabled even though the Supreme Court made a declaration. Gambia participates report intimidation of voters. The Gambia Participate has reported alleged incidents of harassment and intimidation of voters in last Saturday's parliamentary elections. Addressing journalists on what his organization observed during the elections, Executive Director Mar Nyang said incidents of harassment and intimidation of voters were recorded in 6% of the polling stations observed by his team, while polling officials were intimidated, harassed, or assaulted at 4% of polling stations. In 4% of polling stations, women were particularly affected by incidents of intimidation, harassment, or violence. This includes women as voters, polling staff, security, party agents, or observers. A suspected state intelligence service agent was seen taking snapshots of voters around the polling station in Munyagen Health Care Center in Jokadu at about 1:45. This act provoked a negative reaction from UDP voters who felt violated and intimidated. Chaos broke out, which delayed the voting process, he said. He said persons with disability, the elderly, pregnant women, and nursing mothers and sick were given priority to vote before others in most of the observed polling stations. Yang said some polling stations observed were not set up in locations that are accessible to persons with disabilities. He said in 2% of polling station observers reported that party agents attempted to influence polling staffs. In a handful of polling stations, people were seen canvassing voters in Bakau Newtown Low Basic School. A man from the NPP encouraged attempt to influence two women to vote for the NPP candidate, but he was stopped by people in the polling station, he noted. He said the decision by the IEC's presiding officers to allow a UDP candidate into the voting areas to observe the setup of the ballot drums created chaos in the polling station. In the polling, after the NPP supporters expressed disappointment over the decision, which later led to a verbal assault and disruption of the voting process. In the voting process was the voting process was suspended for a short time in Katamina polling station in Nyamina West when the NUP candidate raised a complaint that his party's color was not reflected on the ballot drum. He alleged that the IEC represented a black and white ballot drum. He said in a related development, Elections Watch Committee reported that quarrels were observed at some polling stations. Election Watch Committee, which deployed hundreds of observers to monitor the electoral process, said other critical incidents, including campaigning near polling stations at a polling station in Banjul South. NPP supporters were seen campaigning at the NPP political bureau located opposite the polling station, which upset voters. IEC officials, however, later ordered the closure of the bureau to restore calm. At another, an NPP vehicle was seen transporting elderly voters in the Kanifing administrative area, which resulted in tension, but it was later resolved by the intervention of the military personnel. And now to our last local story. Sidinjai, most of the elected independent candidates belong to NPP. A key aide to President and strategies for his party, the NPP has said the majority of the independent candidates who got elected in last Saturday's parliamentary elections are in fact members of his party. Reacting to the election results, NPP deputy spokesperson CD Njai last night told the Standard, and I quote, "It is because of the dissatisfaction during the selection process they decided not necessarily go against the government or the president. So I can assure you that most of those independent candidates are members of the National People's Party. We recognize that and we will find a way to avoid such recurrence. NPP will find a way of reconciling with its members and return them to the party. We congratulate all those who voted for the party and those who have contested under the party, whether they won or not. And now that the elections are over, we want to call on all Gambians to put their differences aside and focus on national development." The president profoundly thanked the entire country, especially those who went out to vote on Saturday, and assured that he is committed to continue safeguarding the country's democracy. He takes pride in building democracy, Njai added. On the party's dismissal performance in Banjul, KM, and West Coast, Njai said, "We have taken note of our performance in the KM, Banjul, and the West Coast region. We will consult all our regional executives in those areas to discuss what must have gone wrong." That's it for the local news. Let's take a quick break, and when we are back, we continue with some more international stories. Do stay tuned. Welcome back, and now to some international stories from the BBC. Germany's environmental planning to send 50 tanks to Ukraine. A Greek-operated Leopard 1 battle tank before a 2015 parade. German-based defense equipment manufacturer Rheinmetall is preparing to supply 50 used Leopard 1 battle tanks to Ukraine, according to Handelsblatt newspaper. CEO Armin Papagre tells the newspaper the first tank could be delivered in 6 weeks' time, with more to follow over the next 3 months through a subsidiary Rheinmetall Italia if the move is approved by the German government. The Leopard 1, which first entered services in 1965, is the predecessor of the more modern Leopard 2 currently being fought by German's armed forces. The tanks have been returned to the company by the countries using them for upgrades. Papergate says he believes Ukrainian soldiers could be trained to use the tank in just few days if they have previous military training. Zelensky asks if he'll give any part of Ukraine to Russia. Ukraine's president says that he's not ready to give away any part of Ukraine in return for peace in the country. Speaking to CBS Sport 30, Volodymyr Zelensky also says he would never recognize Crimea as Russian territory despite the peninsula being annexed by Russia in 2014. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. But before we take your leave, let's take a quick recap of the main headlines. President's ex-driver says incompetence reasons for NPP's poor results. Samsa accuses UDP of assaulting him over alleged foreigner voting. UDP hails positive election results. Gambia participates reports intimidation of voters. On the international front, Germany's Rheinmetall planning to send 50 tanks to Ukraine. Zelensky asks if he'll give Russia any part of Ukraine. Okay, viewers, that's all of the news we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Do join us by 3:30 for the news in Wolof. Until then, stay tuned and enjoy the rest of our programs. Bye for now.